How about now? Now it works. I figured it out. You can hear me in a second. How about now? I had it muted. My microphone was muted. That'll do it. I was playing the music at the beginning and then I forgot to unmute my microphone. How's things? How are we doing? Boom, Mike. Say boom. Right? Can you hear me now? You've heard me now, right? Okay, cool. If you unmute the microphone, it works a little better. We're here to talk about Kang Toys Ferocious. The first in their line of Predacons for Predaking, what they call Thunder King. And for some reason, it's not just CT-01, it's CT-01. I don't know what Chiyu means, though. Maybe someone will tell me. I was watching a video by Bobby Skullface, and he was going over the history of this figure. Apparently, it started out as a Toy World project and got spun off into Kang Toys for completion. So the jury's out on whether the other figures will be as good as this one. The two that have been announced and shown are, but it is kind of suspicious that they're not getting around to showing the actual combined form, given that the engineering or the design work should already be done on that. But I took my chances. I'm going to try it out. I've always liked Predaking. And I have the oversized Jinbao Feral Rex, and I always felt it was too kind of fat. Like all the bits are too chubby. And I like how this one turns into a really lean looking, really cool looking arm. By the way, I'm using a new camera. Instead of using my old webcam, I've repurposed my old Samsung S7 as a wireless webcam. It seems to work, but let me know if there's any problems with the feed. So let's transform them. I don't know. Let's transform them into an arm. There's a lot of commonalities between the robot mode and the arm mode. For like one thing, there's like this whole like raising the shoulders up that happens with this, and for robot mode and arm mode, you want the shoulders up, and the legs are kind of the same too. Like this lower leg, it kind of does a distinct thing for cat mode, and for robot mode and arm mode, you kind of do you just leave it alone for the most part. So we'll transform them. What we'll do is, the video looks really choppy to me, so let me know if it looks choppy to you. Does it look choppy? I hope it's not too choppy. I tried to go with a higher resolution and better bit rate, and so hopefully it won't be too bad. Yeah, you think it lags a little bit? I don't know. Maybe I haven't found a good replacement for my old webcam. Maybe I just need to get a better webcam. I don't know. But I found the software that can turn your cell phone, which has a really good camera built into it. Like I realize the movement's a little off, but it's crisp, right? Like, it seems to me that it's got a pretty good picture compared to the webcam I was using last week, for example. So, I don't know. Hopefully it'll be acceptable, because we're just going to go over this. I always find that I have to kind of poke this up, because there's not a good place to grab the arm cover. Putting the arms away, I just like to make sure that the fist, if you kind of unfold the fingers and then lay them over like this, so you want to be in that position. And since the video is a little twitchy, for the benefit of those of you that actually care about this, then I'll just kind of pause for a second so you can see. But with the fist in that position, you'll find that it goes into its little cubby pretty well, and then that covers it up. There's really more than enough room for the fist, so it's not too bad to get it put away. You just have to make sure it's not too long. So if the fingers are touching like that, the fist can be a little too long this direction. And so by extending the fingers a little bit and getting them to overlap the palm a little bit, you'll find that it doesn't have the same issue. We'll just maybe get this panel open. You can get that open by hand. It's just more trouble than it's worth. You're just going to be better off with something else. Someone commented that this looked really smooth, and it, you know, this double arm joint does really curl up nicely. Especially with the big thing, it just kind of looks very smooth in the stop motion. But you just kind of bring it up here, and then the foot, the Panther foot. I saw someone doing a video where they were articulating this bit. It doesn't really, I mean, it creates a little bit of slack, but you're not really supposed to fold that anywhere, as far as I know. But you go halfway so the foot can pass through like this. And now you can go the rest of the way. And there's kind of a notch in the bottom of the foot. And there's a tab. And so the notch goes onto the tab. And that's pretty much it for the what you do with the arms when it's in arm mode. So we'll do the same thing on this side. And I'll just do it by feel while I look at the comments. Oh God, don't get me started. My favorite video game is apparently Overwatch. I can't really stop playing it. I know it's just a dumb game, but I like it. I just play Overwatch. I recently played Far Cry 5. It had the stupidest plot I've ever experienced, but it had a lot of fun game mechanics. I mean, I like just running down the road in Far Cry 5 and some bad guys would roll up and I'd kill them all. I'm kind of forgetting. I started going to Panther Mode. The head needs to go away, so here you see the head has been put away. But you want to leave the neck parts out because they just kind of sit there. They don't have any place to go. They trade places with the head. So if you're putting the head away so the head's not sticking out, then by definition the neck parts have to be out. And then this bit flips up, kind of, and you can turn this around and lay it around the front. The little things tend to get in the way. There we go. And that's pretty much how you arrange it. And when I was doing the video, I had to figure out how to like prop this up on some blocks that I have, you know, so that it would sit up straight so I could do the rest of the arm. This thing's really fiddly, unfortunately, but that is the way it is. For arm mode, these panels actually stay down. You do have to flip up this bit. This is like to retain the legs. And I like to spread the legs out a little bit to give them both room. And we're just going to move the tail out of the way. So that's pretty much that. So here's what we're going to do to a leg. It's like I'm using this old cell phone for my thing, but I still get notifications on it, and I've really got to uninstall all the apps off of it. So it's just a camera. Assuming I stick with this. I mean, I like the resolution, but when I watch the video back, I have a feeling the jitteriness is going to annoy me. We might try different resolutions. Maybe it doesn't have to be 1080. But you raise this out, and really for robot, for transitioning between robot mode and arm mode, all this stays right here. The only place you have to dance, like the only time you have to like flip this up and do the dance with this bit is when you're going to or from Panther mode, Lion mode, or whatever. The goal here is to have this out of the way. I like to flip it out sideways, I think. It's not, there we go, sideways. So I like to flip that out sideways, and then this can flip around without any collisions. It's really easy to do. But this is for arm mode, and Panther mode is flipped around like this, but Panther mode, it compresses down like that. But for arm mode, it stays out. It's just a double ratcheted armature. You can hear it clicking. So now going into arm mode, we're going to flip this back into the interior. And this time, what we need to do is we need to get this out and flipped around. It has a double armature in there, so you have to just kind of make sure you're manipulating it appropriately. And then we flip the foot around, which has some really interesting nylon on nylon sounds. We flip the toe up, it'll actually tab on there, and then this toe just needs to be out so it'll clear. But then we can flip this inside here, and it really helps to go ahead and pull this out. In fact, let's talk about that for just a second before we finish the legs. This will pull out fairly easily to create the clearance you need to move between some of the modes, but the arm has to rotate here at this end, and it won't do that right now because I've only pulled it out the easy amount. I find that it's useful to have like something metal, but I like the smooth metal of like nail clippers. Some handles on nail clippers have a nice, you know, they're not sharp edged. But it's really tricky to get this going, and I like to pull up on this notch because it's a really nasty joint. You don't want to just yank on it. You could pull the hinge apart. But once you pop that joint that extra bit, you can see the seam now. And this video is actually good enough that you can literally see the seam now. And now you can rotate at that joint. It's supposed to go this way. Now let's get back to securing the leg. So the leg goes in like this. You can just kind of rough it in there for the moment. It should be sticking straight up. So this armature shouldn't be down like it is in robot mode, but sticking up because it gives you enough clearance for everything. This trapezoidal hole is going to go onto the trapezoidal peg ultimately. But the first thing we need to do is bring this down into the leg, and you just want to make sure it actually goes inside. And you pretty much know it's lined up right if a lot of times with this thing you have to kind of bend it backwards to get the other armature going so it'll collapse properly. But you'll know it's right when you go to close this and that trapezoid actually fits in that hole. So right there. And then this can flip down. And now that leg is just about ready to go. I can go ahead and do it. So I'm just going to flip it down, worry it into position here, and put it onto that peg. You're going to get a little bit of paint or plastic rub on this peg, and that's pretty much unavoidable. It needs to be a really firm peg to hold everything together. So we'll do the same thing a little quicker with this leg. We're just going to worry this out of the spot it's in, flip it around so it's kind of sideways, and then we can flip this over without any clearance issues, which is nice. And then we flip this back in, just making sure that armature ends up straight up, and of course we have to treat the lower leg a little bit, so we're going to flip that around. We're going to flip the foot around. This one's extra squeaky. Horrible sound. I worry it's going to just snap off one day or something. But I mean, really, all told, this thing's really solidly built. Although oddly enough, it has like very few screws involved in its construction. Like you'll notice even here, the two halves of this big arm joint, there's no sign of any screws. This thing is actually glued together in a lot of places. It's kind of odd. I've never seen something constructed quite like this, but it seems solid. I mean, it seems solidly constructed, but you know, this wouldn't be one of those toys you get to kind of take apart and, you know, mod or something, because it doesn't have the clearance to do that. It's glued together. There's nothing to take apart. Anyway, so you get all this tabbed, and you get this tabbed. These pretty much don't have to move during you know, going between arm and robot. This comes down partly. You have to kind of bend it at the ball joint there, but the tab goes into the leg, and the tab goes into the leg. And now we're ready to apply the hand, which is a fantastic piece of sculpt. But you basically, you come in from this direction. Let me get situated here. You come in from this direction and you're just trying to get that to slide on there. And you just give it a good shove. It's really not that bad, but it starts at an angle and then flattens out once you get it on there. And then the tail folds a different way for the hand, so we're folding it basically straight in half. It tabs in here and kind of hides inside the arm there. And I forgot a step, I'm sorry, let me just take a step back here. You need to free up these joints, these little gizmos, and they actually kind of cover up the legs and just give it a little more, they fill it out a little bit, which is nice. And then this has a slot that tabs onto some grooves that are built into the lower legs there. So it's just a matter of lining it up and popping it on. Once the hand is on, it's holding everything tight enough together that this actually sits. Before then, it'd be too loose. So we'll rotate the hand into position, more squeaking. And then we'll rotate this 180 degrees. So the joint's facing the right way. And there you go. You got yourself a, you can pull out the combiner peg too. Not too hard. But you got yourself a crazy, awesome Predaking arm. I think it's pretty sweet. So we'll all stare at that. At least a static picture is nice and crisp. And we'll go to the comments. Well, yeah, I mean, my goal with these combiners, that unfortunately I'm kind of in the middle of a bunch of them, so I've never gotten to a point where I've had to figure out what I'm going to do. But I figure, like for MMC, for example, I do the triple changer videos for each one, and then maybe just a final video that shows them assembling. Or maybe a supercut where I put it together and show them assembling. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. So when I get to the end of a combiner, I'll let you know. We'll find out together how I'm going to handle that when the time comes. Yeah, there's a lot of nylon on nylon. That sort of unpaintable nylon plastic. Like this joint in particular, you're going to hear a lot of squeaking out of that joint. But it squeaks, but I don't think it's going to break. It just makes a lot of noise. It probably heats up, because the squeaking would mean that it's heating. But we may as well do something that the video doesn't actually cover, which is going directly from arm mode to cat mode. So we're just going to lift that up, and we're going to worry this hand off. And really, I'd like to take a moment for the hand, actually. The hand is really cool. So, you know, it's got that non-ball joint but sideways hinge articulation that I like for a giant hand. It really does hand poses really well. But one fun thing it does, let's just do it. So this is like that. We take this bit and we fold it down and fold it over the thumb. And now we've got a little thing that opens there. And then we take this and flip it around this way and this way. We take this bit, just put it back where it was, break it loose and fold it over the top. And what you have here, and you can't really enjoy it yet until the other arm comes out, the hands, this hand turns into half a crab. You know, and so you attach it to the other hand, and you got yourself a crab. It's so fun. Makes me wonder if they're going to do anything with the feet that will combine together or do something. It'd be neat if they did. So these flip back up. I find a lot of times it's easier to get them installed if you kind of aim them in that direction instead of coming in straight in. Like if you come in straight in for the top, it doesn't seem to want to clip properly. So I kind of come in a little from the side and it clips a little better. But we get this loose. One of the hardest things to do is to get the that really tight pin joint loose. So I'm just going to worry at it for a minute until I get a space that I can shove this into. But there's one. It really doesn't want to. It's really hard to get it loose, man. There we go. So that's loose. Shoo. I'm making the sacrifice. I can't turn on my air conditioner in my office when I'm doing videos, and it's getting warm. So I'm just going to get this loose, and we're going straight to Panther. So let's see if we can do that. Because it's already in arm mode, we're already in Panther mode as far as the lower legs are concerned. We're just gonna get this thing unbent and turn it around 180 degrees back where it's supposed to be. And then the Panther, you can't get this wrong because, like, you can collapse the arm when it's turned this way. You can see it's going to go into that void. But if you turn it this way, well, here's part of the panel that's going to collapse, so it's not lined up anymore. So it's impossible to forget which way this goes. And to get it to collapse, I've just got to really push on it, like kind of rock it and get it past that notch. And now it's just in its loose mode. But we'll get the hip skirts out of the way, and we'll get the front skirts out of the way because they're actually going to lay on top of. We got to put this down first. It's going to lay on top of the legs, so the hip skirts have to be all out. But now I'll probably run into some collisions. In the video, there's the better demonstration of how to do this without running into problems, but this has to go all the way in for cat mode. And you can pretty much put them together and then put them down for cat mode because it doesn't much matter because this isn't clipping anywhere yet. So collapse this down and then put these together. And let's just see if I can get the rest of this finagled without running into collision problems. We'll see. So we flip this up, and then this has to travel to the inside, and it's going to make a hell of a noise. Just make sure you're actually rotating at the joint and not pushing on all the other, because there's another hinge and then a ball joint, and so you don't want to push on those. You want to push on the actual part. You want to rotate this. But it rotates to the inside. It needs to rotate like a full 90 degrees because the whole thing has to lay back down again. Oh, it's tough. It's a tough joint. This will be the historic moment where I break it. That'll be great. This has to be around. There we go. And then this can lay down, and this little groove here is going to fit onto that another trapezoidal peg. So it goes on like that, and then the skirt can cover up down there. So that's how that goes. So we'll fight this one through. It just helps to rotate it around a little bit. And rotate the actual joint. Gotta spin this 180 degrees so it'll fit. There we go. It'll be a little past that point so that it fits. And then we can tab this in here. It's a real pain in the ass. There we go. And then if I get the legs out of the way, I've got enough clearance here to put these hip skirts and tab them into position on the sides. And then this can be a little tricky. I like to fold it. I didn't depict it very well in the stop motion, I'm sorry, but I like to fold it as a zigzag right there. That way these hooks, this hook here and this hook here, can go under these knee pad things. And then it gets locked in when you collapse this joint, which means going the other direction, you have to find a way to lift this orange piece like up so that those hooks can come out from under there. But the tail actually hooks in really solidly. And then these go on top like this. And then you just kind of fiddle with the legs. They almost look like Panther legs already, but they added a couple of extra steps because they're assholes. But you have to open this up and free this. It's on a double hinge armature. And then this rotates all the way back, and then this just kind of sits like that. And it has to sit like that. And then it doesn't look much like a Panther to me unless it's on like its tiptoes, because Panthers don't walk flat on their back feet, or cats don't. And so I like to articulate the foot like that so that he's standing on his toes like he should. What's called digitigrade, which is using your toes as your feet, not your whole foot. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to hate the frame rate of this video. I have to go back to the other shitty camera. Nylon on nylon. There we go. So we got the back end of them done. The front end, as you might imagine, is not terribly complicated. We're doing this thing again where we turn it sideways to get it to pass through. And then we just kind of leave it there for Panther mode. Same thing over here. We have to flip it. Just do a little dance there. Do a little dance. And then we pull this back. Go 90 degrees or 180 degrees around there. So we're getting closer and closer. This is tricky for Panther mode. You do want to take these. This is not tricky, but you take these and plug them in here to fill out the neck. There's 1 and 2. But this bit, it's hard to manipulate this joint. It's like a little, there's a thing that rotates here in the middle, and then there's a ball joint. And your goal to get into robot mode is to force the thing down, which can be hard. But you want the bar to end up in front of this piece, because there's a little gap for it to exist in. And that gap goes there, and then you can plug it on here. So you see how the bar ends up inside the neck. So then this rotates around again and just plugs right back in like it does for only cat mode, because in robot mode it ends up plugging further down. But that's pretty much it. That's your cat right there. Your saber-toothed tiger. It gives him a little head articulated. They gave him a little head articulation, not too much. I like that he actually has a neck. A lot of cat bots don't end up having necks, which is crappy. But there you go. There's Panther mode. He's got a lot of squeaky joints, but I think it's just the type of plastic rubbing against the same type of plastic. Oh, I forgot a big step here. This is a pain in the ass too. I forgot a step. Here we go. So you need to untab this, but not much. It doesn't go very far. But once that's untabbed, the shoulders, and let's see if this angle gives you an idea what's happening. So they are sitting on top of that gray plastic initially. See? But the shoulders have to just kind of shift down. I imagine there's just kind of like a little, a double hinge armature in there. But the shoulders shift downwards just a little bit. And then when this thing plugs back in, it ends up plugging into the lower holes instead of the upper holes. So the whole thing shifts down. It's a real hassle. That's actually die cast right there, by the way. I don't know if this video is any clearer than the other video. Might go back to the other camera. Anyway, so that's supposed to be down only for Panther mode. Then we can collapse them. There we go. Don't put your tail between your legs. You're happy. All right. Yeah, there might be 6. I've heard rumors that the legs, the hips and the thighs might actually be formed by some sort of gorilla bot. They haven't shown the combined mode except in silhouette yet, so it might just have like hips and thighs like all the other like Toy World Zeta combiners. So, see you later, Shark. Yeah, I don't mind talking about these every Wednesday in a live stream. Live streams aren't too hard to arrange. I don't have to produce it or edit it. It takes up an hour of my life, and 6 people show up to watch. But maybe people, and I do get reviews later. So maybe someone owns this and they, the stop motion helps some, but they wanted to see some kind of discussion about it. People can ask questions in the comments about just about anything. If I own it, I can bring it out on the live stream the following week and talk about it. I understand these things pretty well, so if anyone has any trouble with their figures, I can certainly help. That's it. It's kind of a short live stream, but that's kind of the whole story. I'll wait for some more discussion to go on while I put him back in robot mode for display. Maybe I should put him in arm mode. I don't know. Maybe I don't feel like touching him at all right now. He is big and a little difficult to work with. It can get a little tiring. No, the third-party toys, they can't. The Hasbro can copyright names and insignias, and so third-party companies can't use the name, so they can't call this Rampage, and they can't use actual Autobot or Decepticon insignias. So they just brand them as their own thing. It does have a Zoid look to it, though, doesn't it? I like it. It's an interesting style, and I like that the arm mode really comes across as an arm instead of just, think of the original Predaking. The Rampage didn't even have elbows. Predaking didn't have elbows. So it's pretty clever. I like it. That's pretty much it, though. Maybe someone later will be like, man, I would have asked a question about the thingamajig, but... I don't think this camera's doing the frame rate well enough. I mean, it's a real pretty picture, but... it's like a really low frame rate. I don't like that. I'm never going to have the right camera. It's not too bad. I'll have to watch the video later. Alright, gang. I don't really have anything else on the docket. I appreciate everybody dropping by and checking it out. I'll pause for a minute because of the delay and see if anyone has any last minute statements or queries or quandaries or questions or... It's a rave. It's a shame the picture looks really gorgeous on the cell phone itself. But unfortunately it can't transmit that higher resolution. Whoa, boy, this air a delay. Sorry, I'm tired. I've been up since early this morning. My wife is switching schools, so we had to go to her former school and grab all her crap in a U-Haul and then take it to our garage. So I've been up since pretty early. Doing physical labor and all that, Wear a guy out. Alright, gang. Everyone have a good rest of the week. Stay safe and all that. In these interesting times or whatever. And look on Wednesday. I think it's going to be Toy World Avila Star. Their kind of silly looking Astro Train. mean, the vehicle modes for Avila Star are awesome. The robot mode's a little off. Turns out Zeta is actually re-releasing that exact mold under their own brand, which is interesting. A lot of cross-pollination between those companies. But that'll probably be this Sunday. I don't think Unicron is going to get here in time. But I think Unicron will get here in time for the following Sunday, so look for that. That's all I got to say. Everybody have a nice day. Bye.